A CEO starts building a CRM in Replit or Lovable over a weekend. By Sunday night, the interface is clean, the records are there, and a few workflows actually work. Then the production estimate comes back. 2 months. So what exactly happens between Sunday night and production? The prototype is real evidence that the visible layer can be built quickly, but it says very little about the identity, permissions, environments, data, testing, and cutover underneath it. That gap is what this video is about. I'm Sam Gaddis from Runpoint Partners. We build these systems and we also spend time explaining how they work. I'm going to describe to you our process, but most of it applies whether you use a capable internal team or an outside one. In the previous video, I made the economic case for sequentially replacing expensive SaaS products with a unified company operating system. And this is the sequel. What actually happens between the exciting prototype and a system your company can trust? To answer that, follow the first CRM module from the prototype through production. On the screen, it may still look like a weekend demo. Underneath it, the team is separating development, staging, and production so unfinished work can be tested without touching the live business. They're building a reliable deployment process, automated tests, and build cycles short enough to make a change quickly and learn from it. Then an employee signs in and the question changes. The team has to decide where identity comes from, how people sign in, and which employee can see each customer, financial record, applicant, or contract. It also has to decide whether that permission structure comes from the HR system or another source of people and roles. This is often where a simple CRM discovers that the company actually has an org chart. Production also needs logging, monitoring, backups, historical data, and a safe cutover plan. None of it demos well, but later modules inherit the same foundation and move more quickly. The visible software comes fast now. The early work is building that foundation and learning enough about the company to make the software correct. The coordination is often much slower than the code because a one-person prototype never has to win an argument. A company system has to make these decisions explicit. Even with a small team and strong executive support, somebody still has to locate the right data, approve access, define permissions, and resolve how the workflow is supposed to work. And that is where the first module often uncovers another problem. The original software inventory is rarely complete. A project may begin with the obvious systems, then uncover a smaller product that one department depends on, but wasn't included in the original spec. Some products have clean APIs. Others require controlled browser-based inspection to understand what the team uses and retrieve the company data through an approved path. That discovery leads to the next important decision. What should you leave out? The same question applies beyond the CRM. Because if you're replacing a broad marketing automation platform like Marketo, rebuilding every feature would usually be a mistake. The better starting point is an audit of the actual usage. Are you using campaigns? Are you using data objects, approvals, and reports that the team relies on? What are they? Along with all the parts that have been sitting untouched for years. You want the smallest system that supports the company's real work. That produces a smaller code base to maintain, of course, but it also produces a clearer interface. People should be able to look at a screen and understand what the system expects from them. Extra software creates extra decisions that slow things down. So once the team knows what it's actually building, the project needs a charter. We keep this practical and it just has 3 parts. First, name the business objective. Replace the CRM is a technical assignment. Reduce the time between a qualified opportunity and a signed engagement gives the team permission to improve the workflow instead of just copying the old screens. Second, map the ownership by module. If the operating system includes HR, marketing, and sales, each area needs a named person who can answer questions, test work, and ideally make decisions. Not all of that can be the CEO. The development team should be able to ask, do you want this approval to work this way or that way? And get an answer while the context is still fresh. Sometimes we'll propose a sensible default and say, if this is wrong, let us know by next Tuesday, otherwise we're just going to build it this way. Silence cannot hold an entire program open indefinitely, so the default and deadline have to be explicit. The third part is the company's shared language. In software, this is often called domain-driven design. And the useful idea is pretty straightforward. The people and the code need the same vocabulary for how the business actually works. This should become a glossary that defines exactly what the company means when it says opportunity, or how a proposal differs from a quote, contract, or engagement, and what each sales stage actually means. These definitions vary by company, so they should be written down and reflected in the data model and kept with the code as the system evolves. Otherwise, the software slowly develops a second language that the business does not actually use. That is a surprisingly efficient way to create confusion. So with a foundation, the scope, ownership, and language in place, the visible build accelerates. Eventually, the first module reaches staging, but feedback cannot wait until the end. The least effective next step is usually a Slack message that says, "We shipped the new module, please test it." But people are busy, so the message collects a thumbs up emoji and no usable information. The builder has to make the benefit concrete. Find the part of the old workflow that annoys people most, solve it, and then show them how that is solved. Sometimes the useful interface is a new application, but sometimes it's a tool the person already uses, such as Slack or ChatGPT connected to the operating system through approved permissions or MCP. Then make the feedback easy to give. We use several routes: a module channel in Slack, an email address that feeds a ticket queue, and an in-app feedback mechanism attached to the exact element someone is looking at. We keep a visible changelog and feature request backlog available for anyone to see so that people know that their input produced a response and will generate new features. This is also why module ownership is more than just a box on the charter. The team needs a working relationship with these owners and a regular response cadence. Requirements continue to emerge through use. And when it's feasible, keep the old and new systems synchronized for a limited period. A temporary bridge lets people connect the new workflow with the old workflow. A temporary bridge lets people test the new workflow with the current data while the team resolves problems in staging. Then you can cut over in deliberate stages instead of making one high-risk jump. The alternative is to force an untested system into production, discover serious problems, and send the team back to the old tool. But once that happens, the next launch is harder because the team has spent trust it now has to earn again. After the cutover, another misleading signal often appears: a burst of first-week logins that can look like adoption. But the usage data may show people leaving the new workflow halfway through and finishing the work in the old system. Which signal should you believe? This behavior matters more than the initial login. You should instrument usage from the beginning so that leaders can see which modules people use, which workflows they complete, and where they drop back into the old system. So what happens between Sunday night and production? The first module carries the decisions and infrastructure that every later module will inherit: identity, permissions, deployment, testing, shared language, feedback, and the path into production. That work produces a lot of value and relatively few exciting screenshots, so the first month or two can feel slower than it really is. But once these patterns are working, the project usually hits its stride, and the second and third modules can arrive much faster because the team is reusing the foundation instead of rebuilding it. And the CEO's role in all of this is to establish the objective, name decisive module owners, clear access bottlenecks, protect time for feedback, and make staged adoption possible. If the early weeks produce that shared foundation and a safe cutover path, the project may be moving very well even when the screenshots have barely changed. If the decisions underneath it remain unresolved, faster coding will not rescue the program.